So I do think that Lamar Jackson should have been the AP MVP for 2024. He won every other award that was out there as far as that goes. Welcome to Just the Stats NFL, the show that covers the NFL statistical leaders from the all-time greats to the current players leading the NFL. I'm Ernie Jennings, your host. So, with only 31 days left until the start of the season, I thought it might be entertaining to tackle what's probably a controversial topic, especially if you're a fan of Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills. So in this episode of Just the Stats NFL, I want to look at Josh Allen and the reasons why he won the MVP and the reasons why he should not have won, and see where we come out with that after we get done looking at it. So the reason I even brought this up as a topic was as I day by day would go through these stats on different teams and different players, and you're constantly looking at the best quarterbacks and so forth like that. I'd see Lamar Jackson at the top of the list consistently, but I wouldn't see Josh Allen. And I started thinking, how in the world did Josh Allen win the MVP? And so I decided let's take a look at that and just see what the rationale was. What stats did he have that gave him that title of AP MVP for 2024 for the NFL? So we're going to look at that on this edition of Just the Stats NFL. So to begin with, let's just say, kind of set the scene here. So going into the 2024 season, Lamar Jackson already had 2 MVPs, one in 2019 and one in 2023. So going into 2024, he had already won the previous year. So at the same time, Josh Allen still has not received an MVP. He's always up there in the voting. And by the way, just to clarify, I think Josh Allen's a great player, one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. So I'm not questioning that at all. I do think he's a very good player, high quality, Hall of Famer kind of type player. So somebody just about any team would want to have as their quarterback if they had the option. So I'm not questioning that at all. But so as I said, Lamar Jackson had 2 MVPs, one the previous year before going into 2024 season, and Josh Allen had none. So we wrap up the 2024 season, and after the voting, Josh Allen beats out Lamar Jackson for the MVP voting for the Associated Press award for MVP of the NFL. Josh Allen had 383 points. Lamar Jackson had 362. Josh Allen had 27 first place votes to Lamar Jackson's 23. And then in second place votes, Josh Allen had 22 to 26 for Lamar Jackson. So they wrapped up all the votes but 2. Interestingly, Josh Allen had a third place vote by one writer, and incredibly, Lamar Jackson had a fourth place vote. One writer put him as the fourth best, or I should say the fourth most valuable player of the NFL, not first or second or even third, but fourth. So that was somewhat interesting, but that wouldn't have affected the overall vote. So Josh Allen won that vote. Saquon Barkley was a distant third with 120 points. Now, what's interesting about that is, why did the voters vote this way? And I say that for a couple of reasons. One, this is the first time since 1987 that the player, which was Lamar Jackson, by the way, the player who was first team All-Pro, did not win the MVP award. Way back in 1987, John Elway won the MVP award despite the fact that Joe Montana was the first team All-Pro. So that's how long ago. Generally, and what's interesting about that is the All-Pro teams were selected before the MVP vote. So everybody knew going into the voting for the MVP that Lamar Jackson had already become the first team All-Pro over Josh Allen. So like I said, it's generally, it hadn't changed in 37 years since 1987. If you were the first team All-Pro quarterback, you won the MVP award. So there was the assumption that possibly Lamar Jackson would win, and he didn't. And again, this had not happened since 1987. So why the flip? The reason given by the writers, and if you want to believe them, this is really the only reason they had. I'm not sure I buy it, but this is what they said. They said that Allen was more indispensable to Buffalo's success, especially after the Bills had lost their top wideout and leaned into what they called the everyone eats offense. Allen still produced at a high level. That's the reason. They're saying that Allen was more indispensable to Buffalo's success than Jackson was to the success of the Baltimore Ravens. You can really, this is very subjective and very questionable that would be the real reason. But what else are they going to say? They're not going to say, which is what I think, they're not going to say that they don't like the idea of giving the award to the same player 2 years in a row. So they decide to shake it up a little bit and give it to Josh Allen. He hadn't had one. This would have given Lamar Jackson 3 and 2 in a row. So they decided, Josh Allen had a good year. I'm not saying he didn't. It wasn't even though his best year, and we'll look at that. But that to me is more of a justifiable reason. It's so subjective to try to say that Allen was more indispensable to Buffalo's success. And he probably was, but Jackson is this heart and soul of the team. And yeah, they have Derrick Henry. Buffalo has, what's that running back? Cook. They both had 16 touchdowns rushing, so they both were strong that way. But I'm not saying Cook is anywhere near, despite what Cook may think, that the fact that he wants more money, I don't think he compares to Henry. But, it's just very questionable. I don't think that some of the wide receivers, the tight ends for the Ravens are that much better necessarily than they are for the Buffalo Bills. And when you look at the stats, you don't see them running out there getting untold amount of yards. The one definite caveat is Henry, I guess. But still, it's interesting. But when we look at the stats, what do the stats say? And before I even get to the stats, let's just say this. The NFL All-Pro team is selected by the Pro Football Writers of America, the Associated Press, and the Sporting News. And the AP team of people was chosen by a national panel of 50 NFL writers and broadcasters. So that's who makes this up. Now, when we're looking at the Pro Football Writers of America award, they gave the award to Jackson with 31st team votes for him and 18 for Allen. So a big difference there. Some of the same people that voted in this other one also voted for the Pro Football Writers of America, also voted with the AP one. And then the actual NFL Players Association, just a few years ago, they decided that they should be able to have an award where the players themselves pick who they think the best player at every position is and who the best player overall is. And these players can vote for anyone at their position or the position they played against, but they can't pick themselves or their own teammates. Well, Lamar Jackson won among NFL players specifically. So he won every other area. First team All-Pro, NFL players themselves picked Lamar Jackson, and the Pro Football Writers of America picked Lamar Jackson. So he won in every category. All right, so it begs to say, how could this happen other than what I've already stated? So let's just look at the stats and say, well, okay, maybe Allen had better stats in some way than Lamar Jackson did. So let's look at that. Well, when you're looking at just them as quarterbacks, okay? In yards thrown, Lamar Jackson threw for 4,172 yards. Josh Allen for 3,731 yards. So pretty big difference. Over 400 yards difference. Lamar Jackson beat him out. Lamar Jackson was 6th in yards, while Josh Allen was 14th in the NFL last season. And that's in yards. Completion percentage, Lamar Jackson ended up at 66.7 to finish 12th in the NFL, while Josh Allen finished 24th at 63.6%. So a 3% difference there. Now, how about touchdowns thrown? Well, Lamar Jackson finished tied for second in the NFL with 41 touchdowns. Josh Allen was 7th with 28, 13 touchdowns difference. Lamar Jackson was throwing a touchdown at a rate of 8.6%, while Josh Allen was throwing one at 5.8%. So a big difference there. Interceptions. And again, when you're looking at it, Josh Allen threw 6 interceptions while Lamar Jackson threw 4. And this is on, and here's another interesting thing. 4 interceptions. Lamar Jackson only threw, now I say only, but he threw 474 passes, while Josh Allen threw 483. So Josh Allen threw 9 more passes than Lamar Jackson for 400 plus yards less. So interesting. But Josh Allen, so they basically threw the same amount of passes. Josh Allen had 6 interceptions. Lamar Jackson had 4. And by the way, 6 or 4, both good numbers. So that's not really an issue. How about their quarterback rating? And this is different than the QBR. This is the one you'll see. Lamar Jackson was first in the NFL at 119.6. Josh Allen finished 9th at 101.4. So an 18-point difference as far as the quarterback rating. Now, QBR, which is another rating on the total quarterback rating, taking everything into account, it takes, I think, something like 40 or 60 something different categories and puts them into a thing. A little bit different than the other rating that you typically will see shown. Now, this is where the QBR is the one spot where Josh Allen tied. They both had a 77.3, and that actually led the NFL. So that's somewhat interesting. Third was Joe Burrow with 74.7. So you can see they both had a pretty good jump over the rest of the quarterbacks. And in fact, only 4 quarterbacks had a QBR over 70. The fourth one was the incredible rookie in Jaden Daniels. So that's some of the stats. So in all the stats, Josh Allen does not lead in any, and he, in fact, only ties in 1. Lamar Jackson led in touchdown percentage, yards per attempt, the adjusted yards per attempt, QBR, which he tied with Josh Allen, and the rating, the quarterback rating as well, and the net yards gained per pass attempt. He led in every one of those categories. So, my point being that there's nothing that shows, as far as statistics go, as far as playing quarterback and throwing the ball, where Josh Allen was better than Lamar Jackson. All right. Now, how about rushing the ball? Because they're both great at running the ball. Well, in the NFL, in the running department, as a rusher, Jackson finished 20th in the NFL with 915 yards. Josh Allen finished 41st in the NFL with 531 yards. Now, the big difference here is this is where Allen does stand out. Jackson had 4 TDs to 12 for Allen. So this kind of explains a little bit why Allen only had 28 touchdowns throwing the ball to Lamar Jackson's 41. So when you add them up together, still, if you're talking about throwing and running, Jackson had 45 touchdowns while Allen had 40. So he still had more. Jackson still had more if you combine the two. So like I said, Jackson ran for quite a bit more yards, 915 to 531. Jackson's the first quarterback ever to have a rating over 90. There's another rating we can look at, but just to say it, rushing and throwing. No other quarterback's ever done that. So he had a historic year. One other category I want to look at is the team stats. So as a team, and I'm looking at total yardage here, as a team, the Buffalo Bills totaled 6,105 yards. And what I did was I combined the passing and rushing yards that Allen was associated with. So out of the 6,105, Josh Allen was involved with 4,262. So that equals out to about 251 yards a game that applied to Allen somehow directly. While the Baltimore Ravens had 7,224 yards. So they had over 1,100 more yards in the season than the Buffalo Bills did. Jackson was accountable for over 5,087 of those yards for a rate of 299 yards per game that Jackson was associated with. Quite a big difference, 48-yard difference. Now, when it comes to percentage of the yards, it's pretty close. But again, Lamar Jackson had a higher number. So Lamar Jackson was involved with 70.4% of the yards gained by the team, while Josh Allen was associated with 69.8. So pretty close there. But the fact that the Baltimore had over 1,100 more yards in their season is incredible. That's almost 100 yards. Well, no, it's not. It's more like 80 yards a game more than the Bills were having. So it's pretty impressive to have that kind of a total. So again, it's just showing how important Jackson was. And despite the fact that if you want to say that that Josh Allen was more indispensable, I don't know. Is he so much more indispensable that he outdoes all the stats that say Lamar Jackson was better? I don't think so. I just don't see it. So I do think that Lamar Jackson should have been the AP MVP for 2024. He won every other award that was out there as far as that goes. And in fact, one other award, I should throw this in real quick. When it came to NFL AP Offensive Player of the Year voting, now this is one that doesn't necessarily go to a quarterback, which is good because quarterbacks seem to have the MVP voting wrapped up generally. But Saquon Barkley finished first in the AP Offensive Player of the Year voting with 396. But Lamar Jackson was second. So that just tells you how great a player he was last year and how great a season he had. Josh Allen finished sixth. So you had Saquon Barkley, Lamar Jackson, Jamar Chase, Derrick Henry, Joe Burrow, all ahead of Josh Allen. So nothing, and I literally mean nothing, other than the fact that you want to say he was more indispensable is the only reason you can give to say Allen should have won this award. And I just don't see that you can say that it's so subjective compared to every stat you want to look at. And to say that somehow he's so much more indispensable than Lamar Jackson was to his team or Saquon Barkley was to his team, it's just crazy, I think. So I again say Lamar Jackson should have been the AP MVP for 2024. It's too difficult to truly quantify or prove the level of indispensability of a player has for one team to another team. So I just wholeheartedly disagree with that. And I'll tell you one thing, and to prove my point, if it was possible, which it probably won't be, but if it was possible, if they have the same seasons in 2025 that they had last year, Allen will not win the award for the same reason that Jackson didn't win. They won't give Allen the award twice in a row. I'd bet money, any amount of money on that. So we'll just see next year what kind of season they each have. And it obviously there's so many factors and it won't be identical, but let's just say they're both up there again. And they're very close to each other as far as whatever variables you want to put in there. Let's just see what happens with Allen next year in this upcoming season. All right, so that's my pitch for Lamar Jackson. And again, I don't doubt that Allen is a very great player, one of the greatest, one of the best players in the NFL today. Right, and again, probably right up there 1-2. I'm not saying anything negative as far as how good a player he is, but I just think the voting was flawed when it came to the vote this year. So nothing against Allen. Obviously, if they're going to give him the award, he's going to take it. So it's, again, not Allen. It's the voting system. All right. So stick around for my next podcast where I'll begin reviewing the teams from the NFC South. And as I have in the past, I'll start with the first place team, and which being the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. We're getting close to the season. I'll bring this up again, but once the season starts, I'll be looking at every game, every team, and just kind of throwing out the stats that the players had for that game, how well the team did, and then looking and see if anybody broke any type of record or are coming close to it for the next upcoming week, so you can watch to see if the player can break a certain record. So that's the kind of take I'll be doing on the games as we get going. I hope you like this podcast. And if you're from Buffalo, please don't hold it against me. Though I know that would be difficult. I mean, I'm a Jaguar fan. If you said something like this, I guess, against a Jaguar fan or player, I'd want to comment back, but you'll just have to go with that. Please like and subscribe this podcast. You can check me out on Just the Stats NFL on YouTube, and you can leave a comment there if you'd like. Also, email me at justthestatsnfl@gmail.com if you want to send an email. Appreciate any feedback, good or bad, and appreciate you listening. So that is a wrap for this episode of Just the Stats NFL. So until next time, I'm out.